Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with three S's. I'm your host, Chantele Francis, here with Jonathan Oliveira to talk about the finale of The Amazing Race Season 34. Jonathan, how are you? It's during the day that we're talking right now.
I'm
We
I'm
have a
not a
winner.
vampire. Like there's sunlight on me. It's
I don't know if
crazy.
you've seen sunlight, but there is sunlight on your face.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about the last episode and what happened and how we feel about it and see how everyone else feels about it as well. So yeah.
Well, how I feel about it is from the beginning, I was right. I was right. Because if you remember, I was saying that the way that the winners were doing all of their YouTube
Mhm.
stuff really reminded me of the Holdernesses. And they weren't doing any other press, they weren't talking on other people's channels. And I was like, that sounds like they don't want to talk too much because they're worried about slipping up. And I never saw this, but someone did tell me that Kim and Penn had slipped up in one of their videos, and like that's why they now have to have everything flagged by CBS before they release any of their recaps and stuff like that. And so I never saw that, but there are a few people that did see that Penn had slipped up and said something like, "Oh, and when we won." So I'm feeling as though that's why our winning team did not have that much conversations and exit
Yeah.
stuff because they didn't want to
Which is
slip up.
like which is like a spoiler for us, if you follow along to that. I almost think that they shouldn't be allowed to do recaps. They shouldn't be allowed to do anything until it's over. I mean, I don't watch them anyways, but I don't want to look into it and really, assess that kind of stuff. But it is a bit of a spoiler, and I just like avoiding spoilers at all costs. But
Well,
you're
I
right.
didn't think I really had a spoiler. I was just investigating. I was being a detective.
Well, Angela Lansbury,
Oh,
but like for reality shows, harder,
yes.
just winners.
Wait, is that a new show idea? Sleuthing? Sleuthing reality? I love it.
Yeah.
That's a good name, Sleuthing Reality. I'm gonna write that down. I don't know what that entails yet, but I feel like I can make something good out of that. So, sleuthing reality, especially because there's a lot of sleuthing reality shows that I'm watching right now. So, Lovable Nikki is joining us. Hi, Lovable Nikki. Thank you for being here because this is the only leg that matters. So, they're going to be having a showdown in Music City, USA, which is Nashville, Tennessee. I know you've been to Vegas. Have you been to Nashville, Tennessee?
I haven't. I haven't. I mean, I know a few people are from there, but I have not been. I did feel like we were just kind of plopped in the middle of it. Like I thought I missed 10 minutes of the episode or something because it just felt like it started very abruptly, just like right into it. But I did really like kind of seeing the setting, and I feel like it was something a little different that we haven't seen. You know,
Yeah, and it was fast paced. One thing I have to say about this finale, because I usually find the finales a little bit boring and you kind of know who's going to win for the most part. But this finale, my heart was racing and I was like really nervous for everyone. I was like, I didn't know who I wanted to win because every time someone went in front or like they switched up the order, I was like, like I was just like for everybody, I was really on edge. So I totally thought it was a really successful final episode.
they keep it really tight on purpose, which I mean, you have to. Like a part of me just wants to like see my team that I want to win just kind of take off and run away with it, but you kind of have to, right? I do feel like, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of the challenges later, but I do feel like I don't like when they're skewed to, and we've talked about this before, to someone's strength. I feel like, especially in the final leg, you should have challenges that are, you know, unfamiliar to all and not kind of like, oh, this person has a strength in like if it was like David and Aubrey, some people can argue like in the final four how he couldn't swim. It was just, you know, it was just kind of not set up, but just I mean, I feel like they should ensure that the challenges nearing the end are kind of on equal ground for everyone, especially in the last leg where they keep everything so tight on purpose. I do feel like our winners had an advantage.
But also, I believe our second place team also had an advantage. If I'm not mistaken, they both took piano lessons as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, well, we like you know how the piano keys as well, correct?
No, I don't. I'm self-taught. I don't read music at all. So I couldn't do like, oh, that's A. I have no idea. I literally just go visually, and I teach myself songs that way. So I had a keyboard growing up, yeah. So but even still, even if it's two against three or against the last one, it's if there's a team in there that has zero music knowledge, I just think it's a slight disadvantage because then you're going visually based on where the keys are and they all look the same versus and we did see that final again, we're not there yet, but we did see that final team not realize that there's additional keys. Where, you know, it's I understand like the whole race is based on like your worldly knowledge of everything and but I don't know. I just feel like it should have been like if a team or two teams have musical background, I don't feel like it should have been a musical challenge. Although they were in Tennessee, so I get it. But
Yeah, I mean, I totally hear where you're coming from, but I was listening and it didn't seem like they were actually playing the song. So the only advantage I would say would be is being able to memorize
I
the
remember,
letters
yeah.
as opposed to memorizing the position, the placements. And like that's how I would have come up to it as well. I'd be like, "Oh, it's like F E whatever, like like whatever it is, and like do those actual like remember it that way, the way that Derek did remember it. And I guess that could be considered an advantage, but some people have visual memories, and so they would be able to just like
I
jump
just think
around.
like you can't like you're like, oh, this is the fourth from the left. This is like, so it's very difficult. I've done a couple escape rooms that are music themed, and I've done them with music people and not with music people, and it's just vastly different. So that's kind of what I was drawing on experience
Mhm.
wise. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I was happy with any team winning anyway. So
True, which is a first. Usually, there's like one team that you really want to win, and two teams that you're like, oh, and then one of those two teams usually does win. We usually don't get what we want here, and we usually don't have the final three teams that we really wouldn't mind either way. So the first task that they're going to do is label and pack 30 bottles of Jack Daniels. And so they have to choose who's going to label. So Claire, Michelle, and Emily are going to be labeling the bottles, and packing the bottles are going to be Derek, Luis, and Molly. Now they are in Lynchburg, Tennessee. Ooh, I had pictures to show you, but I didn't bring my phone. That I have actually worked for Jack Daniels before. I used to go to the Boots and Hearts Festival in just outside of Toronto, where it's kind of like a country music festival. I guess it is a country music festival in Ontario, and I was promoting Jack Daniels. So we had to learn everything about Jack Daniels and like all of his history. And there was a virtual reality reader that you could walk through, and you can see like his the setup of like Lynchburg, Tennessee, and all that stuff. And then I also promoted Jack Fire, which is kind of like if you've ever had Fireball, it's like a Jack Daniels cinnamon type alcohol. And so I actually know quite a bit about Jack Daniels. So what I would not be able to participate according to your rules of having things be fair.
exactly. I mean, you would because they don't care, but I do. But um, yeah, I thought it again, I didn't love this challenge because it is like, who cares? Everyone's leaving within a couple minutes of each other. I think I was also got my hopes up. I thought there was gonna be like an I Love Lucy kind of like, chocolate conveyor belt kind of a moment or something. I was like waiting for something chaotic to happen. Um, but yeah, so it was fine. I mean, it didn't really give me anything. And I was just like, sure, sure.
Well, it's interesting though that what they made them do. They could have made that task be a lot like have a lot more stages in it, because even when we did activations for this festival, we had them like people could walk through the virtuality thing that I was talking about. Then we had them teaming up to make barrels for the like putting the barrels together. I know they've done that in other seasons, but that's something that we got people to do. That was another thing was like giving people like tattoos. I know it has nothing to do with anything, but there could have been more things that they did in this factory that I think would have maybe helped
Yeah.
stretch things out a little bit.
Even if it was like a bunch of quick things, just like
Yeah.
something. It just felt like, why are we here? It was like a drop in the hat and then just gone, and people were a couple minutes apart and it really didn't matter. And I mean, if you're gonna do something that's relatively like simple and quick and it doesn't really change the order up, I think the next thing we did is much better because visually it's more stunning. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
um yeah.
So some people that were doing the labels, they weren't doing the top label quite flush, which I get it. Like you're doing it, you're trying to be speedy, your hands are probably shaking, like you're just trying to get it done. But like you gotta know that it has to be perfect. So I was very surprised by both Claire and Michelle for not having perfect labels for almost every model.
Yeah, it's just like you need to like that's what you're doing. You're getting a quality check. You need to know, or that it's gonna needs to be perfect. I'm shaky, so I probably like wouldn't have been best to put those on,
You
but I
do
would have
packing.
been like slow and steady your hands. But and it's like not worth doing if you're gonna send five crappy ones.
Wrong.
So like just make sure that you're just go slow.
So Emily and Molly, they didn't seem to have any that were poorly labeled. They're going to be leaving first, and I was already like shocked. That was the first time I was shocked because I was like, wow, they're able to pull ahead here. Like, awesome. I'm like, are the twins actually going to be winning? I was
And
starting to get
in my head,
like
I'm like,
excited.
is her knee better? Like, did they take like a week off in between the like I'm like, because it felt like there was maybe a time difference or something. So I'm like, maybe.
Since though I've seen a little bit of their after the game exit press, and Emily said that she has like two fractures in her femurs, I think it was. Like that's a lot. She's fully healed now apparently, but what ended up happening was like she hurt her thigh and then compensating with her left leg. And so when she's going down all those like cobblestones stuff like that, so that's when she hurt her knee, kind of compensating and putting more weight and pressure on the opposite leg. But I'm like, ugh, two fractures on your leg while you're running a race, like brutal.
Yeah, that's I know it's like you're falling apart, but it's I've never had a fracture. Have you had a fracture? Have you hurt yourself?
Mhm. I've never had a fracture, never had a broken bone, never had a cast. I think I've twisted my ankle once. But I don't remember specifically.
I would have to do like physical activity to like injure myself.
You said you walked 70 paces to the garbage dump today, so
70 paces, yeah, yeah, and back, and so down the hall. It's a long haul, but no, I don't do anything to. I did do track in elementary school, but I never hurt myself. I was young.
slash this is a completely aside here, but I do need to have a few private clients for the reformer for my trading if you would like to have a private session. Just saying, putting it out there. So the twins, they tell us that they are the shortest, the oldest, and the only all-female team left in the game. I wonder how tall they are. Because Michelle looks like she's kind of bite-sized. So I'm like, are they shorter than Michelle?
Yeah, I feel like they're like okay, let's do guesses. I'm gonna say 5'2".
Oh, that's small.
I'm gonna say 5'2".
And Michelle's like 5'3".
Ooh, Michelle is tiny, but she's always next to
Is Luis really tall? I just picture.
what's tall.
You think he's tall?
I feel like he's tall. Like I feel like he's like. I mean, I'm 5'9", so like what's tall? But like I feel like he's at least 5'11". So um, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna say they're 5'2". They're 5'2".
Okay, we're gonna find out. If you guys know in the audience in the chat, the heights of any of these players, please let us know. And then I wrote, "Oh my gosh, Molly and Emily missed the marked park." I was like,
Was she
"Girls,
was she in the wrong lane?
I, they just didn't see it. Like I don't know.
I felt like she was pointing out, she's like, "Oh, I think this is," and then they're like, not in. I felt like they might have been. I didn't rewatch it, but I felt like they might have been one over. I'm like, why are you on the left side if you know that you need to exit?
Yeah, no, I think that. Well, maybe they didn't know that they need to. Well, yeah, no, they have to know that they need to
Yeah,
exit at some point. Yeah, I feel like they weren't in the right lane. Like
yeah,
they were
and that's
definitely
why she
in.
didn't do anything about it. And I was like, this isn't the first time, and
Were you
that's
pissed?
the one thing that's there. And I feel like That's their one thing that they could improve if they came back for like an all-star season or something, is that they can really, and how much would we love them back for an all-star season?
They
But
said they would do it.
oh, good. Oh, good. Is just under pressure. Just don't get yourself worked up. Like, I don't even know how you work on that. I have no idea. But it's just they need to be aware of it at least, that they can make mistakes and just like try to focus, because they really slip up, and all it takes is a little slip up when they're uh have put a lot of pressure on themselves. So because they never did it the first half of the race, I feel like.
Or it wasn't
Oh, we didn't
consequential.
see, yeah, and it was exactly, it was a couple, but I mean they were kind of killing it, so I don't know.
Well, I think other people just sucked more, maybe like a lot more. Because like it's from what they've been saying is that they've never really been that great with navigation.
Mm.
So I
So that's
think
something
that
we can work on. Yeah.
yeah, we probably just didn't see it, or it was just like what they did wasn't that big of a deal. But like in this end game, like it's these seconds, or it's too tight of a race for you to make a mistake like
That
this.
element wasn't, but when they left, they just went in the wrong direction, and get direction. Don't go in the wrong direction. So
So Vicky, hi Vicky says, I'd say Emily and Molly are 5'3" and 5'4". Yes, there is Molly is an inch tall. I think it was Molly that said she's an inch taller than Emily. I was at the finale party, so fun, and where it was wearing flats, they were in heels and were only slightly taller than me. So
I mean, I don't think 5'4" is small
it's pretty
a woman.
small.
For a woman,
But I'm 5'5", but like, and
I
people
mean,
think I'm quite small.
I can think of like three people, and really, I think of like three women that I know off the top of my head, and they're all under 5'4". So
Really? Well, 5'4" I think is the small average for women. Okay, I can see
yeah, so
that.
if they're an inch off, I would go 5'2", 5'3" would be my guess then.
Okay, I can see that. So maybe about an inch different from what Vicky's thinking here. So we do get to the roadblock, and Claire and Eric end up getting here first. They were surprised by this because they know that Molly and Emily had left first. And so it's a 360-degree view of Nashville where they have to climb and rappel and then grab a guitar pick.
Yeah.
I guess we would have had to make sure that I had a roadblock available.
I mean, I could have done that. It wasn't, yeah, it just, it was seemed wide enough, and I don't know, it felt kinda like roller coaster-ish, but also, yeah, it wasn't, it was high, but it wasn't like skyscraper high or anything, so, and I'm okay with rappelling. It's the bungee jump, it's the skydive that I'm not okay with, so,
Okay.
yeah, I
Okay,
could,
that's good to know.
but I like this challenge because you, again, although it's not one that you really should trip up on, Michelle. But they did have that additional little something with the guitar picks at the top. So you had to like be aware of it, and you could, and we saw someone slip up and cost themselves, even if it's just 5 minutes. But yeah, it's the grandiose element of it that I felt was really nice, that the Amazing Race can really capture. So I liked it.
I thought it was great as well. Basically, they're just climbing up this like what is it? An archway? Like what is that?
Bridge arch, yeah, and you feel like you're Spider-Man or something. Like that's
It
cool.
was really cool. It was definitely like I would have been like, "Oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever!" I don't know what Michelle was doing. Well, she said that she was basically pulling herself up instead of just walking up and using like the support of the harness. But the strategy that Derek and Claire had was to front load all the roadblocks that Claire could do from the beginning. So sometimes we're like, why is Claire doing this? Why is Claire doing this? Like, Derek should fully do this because they didn't want to be left with a task that was physical at the end that Claire would have to be doing. They wanted Derek to be doing any physical task. So Derek was the one that had to do this task. Same with Michelle. She had to perform this task, and Emily had to perform this task. Now, I'm wondering if Michelle and Luis had thought about it and they had left this for Luis to do, I wonder if he would have beat Derek going up that archway.
Um, Perhaps, but I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the.
Fair, actually, you're right. You're right. You're right. But at least leaving this
Right.
roadblock first for sure. Um, And it was so good, but nobody seemed to realize that there was they had to go and open the guitar case. Would you be wondering why that guitar case was there, or would you?
I mean, I would think so. I'm like, "Oh, there's a guitar case on top of the." I mean, I don't you couldn't tell how long it took. I'm obviously, Michelle took quite some time, but I also understood that explanation of feeling like you're in the midst of something and you're waiting for the other team to finish, because I'm sure that happens a lot throughout the race, when they're gearing up for stuff. So, they just showed that element, and it's if she like was 5 minutes behind or 5 minutes ahead, I don't think she would have tripped up that much. It would have been just momentarily, but because she was waiting for another team to finish what she thought was finished, she was just sitting there, watching them. So tricky.
Oh, so Sherilyn's saying is Luis and Michelle said that they left Michelle for the last task in case it was a memory task. Interesting. Interesting. Well, so Derek gets to talk first. One thing that Michelle also said was that she could not see Emily and Derek going up their sides. So
Mm,
she was kind of alone. And so she might have been able to see their form that might have helped her figure it out a little bit quicker and get to the top, at least before Emily did. So that was another thing that was disadvantage to her as well.
right, right. And that memory comment, they always have a memory challenge at the very end, which they both do. So why would they have two memory challenges in like one leg, the final leg, like that?
I don't know.
They ever had that? I don't that just seems weird to me that they would be like, she did say, she's like, "I got this, I know everything." I'm like, "But you know that the final challenge before the final,
Yeah.
map is going to be a memory based on the season, like what you've done this season." So you both be working on that.
I
So
mean, and as super fans, I would think I don't remember that specifically. Like
but they would have like a double memory thing. Yeah, like
or like a roadblock that's a memory task before the final memory task.
no, it's weird.
I mean, I could be forgetting and misremembering, but um I think Derek and Claire had the right idea is that it's usually something physical, like near the end, that they wanted to
Yeah,
leave it for Derek.
yeah.
So that sucks because I did want them to be able to do a little bit better. So yeah, Michelle thought that she had to wait for Emily, which you were mentioning is like, yeah, sometimes you have to wait, but she just had to get her guitar pick and go on down. And so another very teeny error that is really detrimental to
'Cause
your
they're too
game.
nice. I would've been like, "Can I go? Can I go?" Like,
Well, she just didn't get the pick. If she got the guitar pick, they would have set her up to
like,
go.
sitting there and she's just waiting and, like, watching. But that's the thing, like, I would be so aggressive that, yeah,
People would be like, I don't want to play with this guy.
but you know what? I might win, though. But,
Would win.
she's kinda sat there and they're very nice, so that's what I'm saying. So she was just, like, politely kinda just waiting for her turn,
Mhm.
and
Just waiting. So Derek and Claire are out of the roadblock first and they stop for directions. Derek is super sweaty from this point on, which I mean, obviously I would be super sweaty, but we don't usually see teams this sweaty for like this long amount of time for whatever reason. But Derek was definitely moving for the rest of this race. So they have to go to Gibson guitar. So on the guitar pick that they found inside the guitar case on the top of the structure, Gibson garage is what it says. So they are trying to find this garage. And when they do, they see Caroline and Jennifer from season 22 in All Stars. Did you remember them?
yeah,
What?
yeah. I mean,
Jonathan, you remembered them?
not names, but visually, like, you can spot people that you recognize.
I don't think I would have remembered them. Thank you. Goodness, I'd be with you.
Um, yeah, I'm much more of a visual person than I am like names or
I mean, I think I've just had too much TV in my brain in 10 years that like I just don't remember them right now at all. It's like, but they do give them a clue. And it's a route info. So they have to do a Gibson guitar delivery. So basically they're gonna have to go to the Gibson garage. They have to find, I think it was 2 acoustics and 1 electric guitar and bring them to 3 different bars downtown Nashville. Pretty standard task. What'd you think of it though?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like it kinda gave you much to get lost with or anything like that. So, I mean, it's to exert them, it's to kinda, wear them down a bit before, like, again, you had that physical, now you have another physical where both of the team members are on there, and then you'll have the memory challenge after. So, yeah, so I don't mind that kind of hectic craziness, on brand to kind of where they are, geographically. So it's fine. It's fine.
So, in the whole scheme of things, Molly and Emily do leave the roadblock second, but they stop and get directions, which allowed for Michelle and Louise to show up to the Gibson garage before them. And they did recognize, what was it? Caroline and Jennifer. And I think they started singing their songs, or maybe I'm just misremembering and I'm just thinking of what their exit press. Um, I was so frustrated that Molly and Emily fell from second here because I was like,
Yeah, they're just everyone's so close that it was like, and again, because even when they show up at the memory challenge, the last challenge, like they all are there at the same time. So just to show you how close everything is.
So Sherilyn saying that they said on their podcast that David and Aubrey were leaving Aubrey for the last task if they made it because she's better under pressure. But she's also terrified of heights, so I don't know if that would have been a better thing for her to do.
I mean, she also did fall apart in the car.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe under pressure with doing things other than navigating. So I've thought the run with the guitars through the streets really stressful, and you just hear like Claire being like, "Excuse us, excuse us, excuse us, excuse us," like just through these crowded streets. Like people are just like, "Who are these people coming through?" Like, um,
I do think though that Claire and Derek do have an advantage because if you have any just throughout the race until because you have that ability for people to recognize you. So if people might want to lend you their phone a little quicker or move out of your way, or you know what I mean. So um not that this came into play, but just as you're mentioning that Claire had you know running through the maybe people would move out of the way a little faster if they're like, oh
Do
my
you know,
god,
it's
it's Claire.
true. Derek did say that people were recognizing them. Not necessarily in Nashville, but he said in Florence, people recognize them a lot. And so, yeah, like to your point, that yeah, maybe people did realize like what was going on, or like, oh, I recognize those people. I don't know where from, but let's just move out of the way.
Which,
Um,
like, as we know, people coming from other reality shows, in my opinion, I haven't done the statistics, but tend to do well
well,
in The Amazing Race. I think it's for several reasons. One, because they're used to how reality works and all that kind of stuff, and know what to prepare for. But secondly, I do think it has a little bit to do with the willingness of people and other teams to help you because they are fans or familiar with you. So.
agreed, agreed. So they're going to have to go to the Nashville Municipal Auditorium after they deliver their three guitars. Molly was a pretty badass. She was carrying two guitars to help, obviously, Emily, who has her hurt legs. And then once they dropped off Emily's guitar, like she still carried two guitars, like, just, whatever, let's go, let's go. And I was like, yes, Molly, run with those two. Guitar cases are hard, are heavy and awkward.
Awkward, hitting your legs,
Oh,
all that. Yeah, awkward. Yeah.
I remember like one of the reasons why I chose trumpet in school because like at least it's heavy, but like it's not super awkward. I felt so bad for people that were like bass guitar or bass like big string bass players. I'm just like, oh my god, this 6 foot tall bass they have to travel around on like the subway with. I'm like brutal, brutal. I was always jealous of the people that played like the flute or like the clarinet because it's just all compact and small. But yeah, I would not want to play the bass or the cello. It's too big,
Yeah, too big.
way too big. So the route info says the Amazing Race music. And so I thought it was pretty cool hearing the orchestra play the music of the Amazing Race opening theme song that it was composed in 2001. It kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you've ever gone to the symphony to hear them do like Star Wars, or like other like Zelda. It's pretty cool hearing some of these really familiar songs played by an orchestra.
I went and did the Harry Potter, watch the film and have it played by a live orchestra. Yeah,
That's pretty good.
yeah, yeah. It's it's better than you even think it would be. So I was like, okay, that's fun, whatever, right? And then you go, and then you're like, wow, this is like, you watch it in movies where people are out on the street and there's this music that is just there and it exists, and then it feels like you're in a movie. Like it just really gives you that kind of like full immersive experience. So that was, but with this, I loved hearing the origins of it and telling you who composed it, and it's so iconic. Like,
So iconic. And I personally thought that this was a really great task. I understand like your kind of hangups around it not being fair with not everybody having full understanding of how a
like,
keyboard works.
again, like I know they're in Tennessee. There's music, music, music. That was this whole leg, so I get it. And they don't know when they're setting this all up who's going to make it to the finals and who. I'm sure they understand who has what skills, but they're like, well, if you get there, then you have a little bit of an advantage, perhaps. But so I'm not like, I don't know. I get it, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's necessarily avoidable, but because they can't make sure that every team is like, on every task on the race doesn't have some sort of advantage. So, um,
Well, and it's kind of like there's a lot of people that have had a lot of experience. Like for myself, I've done a lot of different things, so I would have a little bit of of knowledge in a lot of different areas. And so if there's a few people like me, like on a race, or I guess we wouldn't get on the race because we would be too well rounded. And so I don't know, it kind of sucks. All the schooling and the lessons that I've taken, I can't even use it to my benefit on the Amazing Race.
like downplay yourself. Just be like, just don't tell them everything you can do.
No, I wouldn't.
Like,
I'd be
I'm not
like,
really bad at swimming in heights.
yeah, I'd be like, I wouldn't tell them. I wouldn't tell them. Well, I'd end up telling them everything, but I would hope that I'd just be like, I'm okay at, or mediocre. So it was really cool. I thought so. They had like a piano. I forget how many keys were on this particular piano, but they had every single note had a different visual image that was going to either reference something from the race or it could just be a bit of a red herring just to throw them off. And so I thought that it was really interesting that they had to play the pictures in order of how they happened on the 11 previous legs of the race. So I thought it was a really great challenge because a lot of people, like, sometimes in previous seasons there could have been one person that knows all of the memory stuff. Like we hear Michelle saying like, I know memory, I'm so good at this, like I studied everything, I know street names, I know like pictures of everything, like she knew everything, but she wouldn't have been able to do this by herself. And so I thought that that was really great that they made it so that both team members had to participate in this in order for them to be able to do it in under 11 seconds. That was a little bit of a
And
tricky
I like
mission.
tricky. I like
Yeah.
I like that they didn't necessarily explain it. I like the tricky. They had to notice. Like Derek and Claire didn't realize that, you know, at first. I don't. None of them noticed that at first. I don't think. But and then when you're kind of buzzing out, and you're like, wait, that has to be right. And it's like, oh wait, no, I'm running out of time, is what it is. But I will say, I love the movie Big, and that giant. And I'm gonna butcher it. F.A. Schwartz. F.A.
F.A. Schwartz. Yes.
Sports. So, it's obviously it's all around that, and I just love seeing that giant piano.
Epic.
They did have that in Toronto, um, by the way, when the Bay has
FAO Schwartz.
FAO. I was missing the O. Oh my gosh, that is from. By the way, this is from FAO Schwartz, and it is the fortune teller from Big. So there you
Okay.
it lights up, and it's like, like Anyway, so the big giant keyboard, come on. I was like, love it. It's one of my, favorite movies as a child. But
I mean, I would be really obsessed. Now, I couldn't tell though, as I was mentioning before, it didn't seem like it was a theme song, but I mean, you wouldn't be playing the same letter or same note more than once. So it was probably like ba ba
yeah.
ba 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 ba, like it. So it just didn't sound like it, but maybe Phil implied that it was going to be the theme song, but I guess it wasn't in the right timing. It was like, so it just didn't sound exactly the same. I would have loved it if it sounded a little bit more, if they figured out a way to make it sound a little bit more like the actual theme song.
Yeah, I think it's like the pacing of it, right? Because you're like da 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 na na da da. Like you
And
have
it
to like
wouldn't be any repeated notes.
yeah.
Bum, 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 bum. Like, it
I
doesn't
mean,
sound like it at
yeah,
all.
if you do the pacing off on any even the most recognizable song, it won't sound like the original song.
It's
So
really cool,
it's
actually.
yeah.
So yeah, I did really like this challenge. I thought it was Hi Rylan. Did you like this challenge as well?
Being extra special today. So
Oh, lovable Nikki's also saying that she agrees with you. I knew that Luis and Michelle were not winning once they said they were not familiar with musical instruments at Gibson. Um, I mean, I wonder if they could have done like a big guitar string or something, or like they had to put down like, you know,
it's like if you went
the
for
frets and whatever, you know?
that's true. That's true. But it's like if you don't know, if you're not musically inclined at all and the last leg's all music and you're in Tennessee, I'd have been like, okay, well, it was nice running. It was nice having this whole
We would
experience.
still be
But
fine on this. What are you talking about?
I mean, I would be very nervous that the lack of advantages that I would have based on my lack of knowledge.
With me? We would be fine.
No, we would be okay, but I mean, like, yeah, it's just if it was just me and my partner, or if I just had nothing and my partner had nothing as well, no musical background, it's just very intimidating going into this last leg when everything's music themed.
But also, though, Claire and Derek may have thought that they would have been more advantage and maybe over because they seem to have taken quite a long time considering Derek knows he played piano his whole life. So I thought that they took longer than I was expecting them to take. Remember, he kept on messing up. So there is a possibility that you just doing it methodically might be able to actually do better than somebody that's capable of knowing musical instruments.
Oh yeah,
I think so. I have faith in you, Jonathan. So, everybody was there at one point, all at the same time. I kind of felt that Derek and Claire, they had a head start getting there with his musical background, recognizing that the Black Keys also had photos on it because I was shocked when Luis and Michelle was like, "Oh, we didn't realize that there were Black Keys," and I was like what I would have probably done first is just like go through every
right,
single
yeah,
key, right? And just be like, okay, what's here? What are we working with? And then start. It was shocking to me that they missed like 10 keys, maybe more.
yeah.
Um
Again, if you don't play it, I mean, maybe
I know, I just don't I can't even I've just have seen a keyboard my entire life. So I just like don't I
and
can't
because like, you have
imagine.
these like white keys that are jumping out at you, and like the black keys are just there. You kind of really don't think. I don't know. I've definitely seen in my lifetime before people not realize that there are those keys on a keyboard or piano or whatever organ. And yeah, so I've
I believe it and I believe you. I just die. It's something that I've seen for so long that I just can't unsee it,
yeah
basically. So I wasn't surprised when Derek and Claire got out of there first. They did have obviously a little bit of trouble with like Derek kind of freaking out and like making mistakes and double tapping notes and stuff like that. What I think was helpful for all teams was the fact when they got one wrong, immediately it said, you know what I mean? So like you knew where you went wrong. So I thought that that was helpful to both of the teams. It's probably because the task was quite difficult. Because like if they didn't tell them where they got it wrong, like they might be there forever.
sure.
So Derek and Claire get out of there first, and they are going to the Ryman, which is, I guess, a big theater. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I don't
Or
know.
big arena, stadium. It's a stadium kind of thing.
Yeah,
We'll say stadium. And I was like, oh my god, they're running, and then like they're having discrepancy on direction, and Claire's like, no, it's to the right. Derek's like, no, it's to the left. We gotta go. Like, I was like, oh my god, are they gonna lose this by going
oh,
the wrong way?
whenever they have that, it's always to like that's always the fake out. When
I know, but it still was intense.
whenever that, I'm like, okay, then definitely one. Like even when that last little bit of hope when they're like, oh no, we have issues at the last second. I'm like, they don't have issues. Great, well, Amazing Race editing. So
Well, the twins actually were able to leave the final challenge second place. And we know that Emily has her sore leg. So I was really nervous that, like, I mean, I didn't matter who was going to win, but when Claire and Derek are leaving first and then we hear that, like, oh my god, we're going the wrong way. I'm like, is Derek wrong? Are they going the right way now or the wrong way? And then we see the twins leave us. Like, I
But
was
like
just, I know.
their cutaways, like their little interviews, you could tell who wins just from the first 5 minutes of the opening of the show.
True.
Yeah, it's like that's always a dead giveaway, and I don't have a solution to that, um, unless they did it like 2 weeks after the show or something. But you can always tell who wins based on that.
Right.
Sometimes in like even in mid season, you can tell who goes because they're really upset in theirs and they just can't shake it. Their little interviews.
Hmm. So the Ryman was the original theater for the Grand Ole Opry. Okay. Thanks, Vicky. Thanks for some Tennessee history. Um, so the twins are running, they're trying to fake us out, like making it seem like it's super close. At one point, one of the twins falls and like right near the entrance, and I'm like, I feel like the timing was off there, but whatever. I was still on the edge of my seat, but Claire and Derek do run through the doors first and they run up to Phil. Everybody is super excited. And Derek and Claire from Big Brother 24 have what 23 have won the Amazing Race season 34.
Yeah, and I think overall, I mean, they were a very strong team. Um, they're very well rounded overall. So I mean, I'm not surprised. I don't think any of us were surprised. Um, all of us anticipated them being in our final three. That's what we
Hmm.
kind of wanted. So although I wanted Emily and Molly to win, I'm happy. I kind of went into this. We all went into this expecting them not to win. And so it was nice seeing them come in second and then having Derek and Claire win. So
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Emily didn't have the leg injury. I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to win it.
I also
Um,
think just overall, like the last several legs, if that leg injury wasn't there, they wouldn't have been as flustered. I do feel like
mhm.
let that kind of build up in them. So
Absolutely. And so I, I mean, I think it just gives them an opportunity to be called back again. They will absolutely be called back for another season. I think. Did you watch that little clip that I sent you from Ellen?
no, not yet. But I mean, I saw that they're both on there. And so when was that recorded?
I did. I don't remember the date, but
Ellen's over.
before obviously they went on the Amazing Race. I think it's when their story came to light. So I'd say maybe a year ago.
Yeah, I'm like, hasn't Ellen been canceled for like?
Well, it wasn't actually Ellen. It was Wanda Sykes.
Oh, on the setup. Oh, I love Wanda Sykes. I'm gonna watch it after this. But well, they're gonna go again because they talked about was like not having this opportunity, and it's like once in a lifetime to like spend this time together. So I'm like, if you're like, well, let's make it twice in a lifetime, you're gonna be like, sign me up. So
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure like all the networks are like, how can we use them? What can we do? Let's maybe follow them when they go to Korea to see where they were born. You know what I mean? Like they're like,
oh, I think, and we've seen this before with twins on The Amazing Race. But I would actually like to see them on Survivor.
I'll take it.
Because strategically and just kind of like the they are threats without seeming like threats. I feel like I would really love to see them on Survivor as well. So come back to Amazing Race, but also like maybe dip into like some other reality
I
shows.
don't know if that's their vibe, but like
I think they could do very well.
I would love it. I would love it. So Victoria wants to know, hi Victoria, do you like the luck element of having music tasks in the final, or do you think that the finale should have tasks that require general racing ability? We did mention this, but what are your concise thoughts about this?
Yeah, so I think that um I would have liked to have seen the final like be more like they try to really kind of showcase where they are. So, with doing Tennessee, they were going to do music. I mean, there's several big cities where they could have done music. So I don't know what else they could have done. I would have liked to have seen something else in general. Like I would have swapped it out if I could because I would have wanted to see like just kind of finale, a leg finale should kind of embody everything about a race to me and just really kind of reflect the whole thing. And there should be the physical, there should be the mental, and there was, but with a side of like very specific kind of music base. And then the jar or the label or whiskey challenge, whatever, is kind of like indifferent. But I don't know. The last leg always is kind of like nah, to me anyway.
Yeah,
So
one thing I wish is that they would allow us to play along as the audience with the memory challenge, because like I wanted to be like it was this
yeah,
images flashing really quickly and I'm like, is
yeah.
that for a second? No, that's like I want to be able to play along and I didn't really get that
And
opportunity,
I
I
feel
felt.
like they did that. Like this was the worst that they've ever done that. Like normally they're like, "Dun," and they show you like kind of what's wrong, and even though we saw what was wrong, but I just mean kind of. And maybe there wasn't a way to really express that with how this challenge was set up, but yeah, I just feel like we weren't playing along at all. Like like kind of kept at a distance. So that was interesting.
It was. So Krista, I'm gonna be honest. I was shocked that Derek and Claire won because so many podcasts was sure that Luis and Michelle were gonna win. Well, that's kind of why I was thinking that they weren't maybe going to win, was the fact that everybody else was so all over different podcasts in the chats and whatnot. I felt it, and then they threw the finale party, and I was like, hmm, like either they win or they lose. Like I know
It's
that's
big,
pretty
like red.
obvious, but
Yeah,
pardon?
it was a red herring. Like we all, I mean, I think it was the edit too. It made it seem like they were really like, what were they, like 10th place on the first leg or something to like
Hmm.
this. It just felt like that was maybe their story and the outcome. So I think it was partially the editing as well that really subconsciously led us to all believe that that's what was going to happen.
But my first instinct was Derek and Claire from the beginning, and I was allowing myself to be convinced that it could be Luis
Well,
and
I feel like
Michelle.
you always said it was like Derek and Claire. Like you were like, I feel like felt very strongly that they were going to win overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were doing our predictions last time, I said like I could see Luis and Michelle, and I remember I was saying I could make a really strong case for anybody winning. But I was for the longest time thinking that Derek and Claire were going to win for sure. Um, But anyways, that's it for this season, Jonathan. Thank you for covering with me. I'm wondering if it's because you had your mini hiatus that the Twins didn't win.
Well,
Do they blame you?
they might. I'm sorry, but you have another shot. Go on an All Stars, and I will help you out and like figure out what's wrong with your leg. Like,
She's
how
fine. She's fine now. She's fine.
does that not happen again? You know what I mean? Like, how do we make sure that doesn't happen again?
I don't know about that, but at least they're aware of it now before like it happened on the race. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Although I feel like anyone who has a leg injury or something and they kind of get kicked out of some sort of show or whatever, they always come back and then they never have that same injury again. So here's hoping. But no, it was good. It was a good season. And it felt like we're back in the Amazing Race again, finally. And so
Yes. Now all they need to do now, and I think this is what Emily and Molly were saying, is that they hope that if they were to go on another season, that there's not going to be any COVID regulations, and so that they would have the whole airport thing, because like
it's,
they want to have that experience of like doing
I mean,
airport stuff.
2 years ago, I thought the Amazing Race was going to be canceled, and that was the end of it. And I was just gonna have to watch reruns, and I was watching reruns to get my fulfillment when COVID first happened. So it's nice just to even get back to this point. But
Yeah, I thought this was a great episode, great season, great winners, great final three. Had the Amazing Race vibe that we know and love, and so yeah, I'm all with you that I wasn't sure if they would ever come back again. So I'm happy that it's here, and now that it's here, and it seems as though maybe things might be getting back to normal a little bit. I hope that they can start running the race like they had previous
where
season.
would you like next season to start off? Starting city next season.
Oh my god, I don't know. Starting city, Canada. Um, I feel like they've been everywhere. Should they just plunk them in somewhere really challenging, like China? like Bangkok. You know what I mean? Like just go and just start with a bang, literally.
I do miss the highly dense populated areas from past seasons. Yeah, yeah, that would be nice.
That's definitely fish out of water. Like people that have never left the country before, like would just be like, bam, like that'd be wild. What about you?
Yeah, I want to see them somewhere like that as well. Maybe like just any sort of densely populated kind of area. It's almost like, especially if they haven't really experienced that since COVID. I mean, I don't know if it's the best idea, Abby and Will, but it's something that I would visually like to see.
Level Nikki also said Lulu and Lala hosted the finale party last season. I think the pair at the best location host. Um, Fair. I mean, Luis and Michelle are definitely kind of the party people, it seems, and like they probably wanted to throw. They're really excited and they really love the race and they wanted to throw the party. So it made sense out of the final three that they were the party throwers, 100%. But just in terms of I just hosted a finale party for the Amazing Race Canada, and it was hosted by the winners. So like that's also where we were kind of thinking like it's interesting when the winners are hosting a party. But at the same time in different areas, not in Toronto, there were other people throwing finale parties, but the ones with the biggest draw were the winners. So I can understand why people were thinking that maybe Luis and Michelle were going to win. But out of the final three teams, they were definitely the party hosters. Well, Jonathan, what do you have going on that you want to share with the people?
Um, Not much. I mean, there's a bunch, but like we're kind of done applications for that our duplicity org that we were discussing throughout the season. So that's going to start in January. And the dog's going crazy right now. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sweet. Well, I'm gonna be we got news, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that Traders US is going to be starting mid-January. And so Jonathan hasn't watched yet, but I've watched I'm up to date on Traders UK and I'm on episode 4 of Traders Australia. And I'm just wondering if you guys can maybe give me an idea on how to cover it. I don't know if I want to do specific like recaps of the episode, like, but I would maybe want to do something fun and different. So if you have any ideas on like how I can maybe build some content and share with you guys for traders, let me know. But other than that, just subscribe to the channel, like this video, let us know how you feel about Claire and Derek being the representatives of season 34 of The Amazing Race. And thank you, Rylan. You too. Tell us your opinion. Final thoughts, Jonathan, or are we out?
No, it was great. And thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you.
Yay. Thank you. Thanks, Victoria. Bye.